Hey, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Good to have you with us. I'm in Manchester, New Hampshire, and I think it's Manchester. And I just stopped at a local coffee shop, and I was sitting there kind of reading through a couple of devotions from the last couple of weeks in our community. And if you're a member, not if you remember, we're walking through the book of John right now. And John's pretty amazing. I always tell people, like, hey, if you're a new Christian, or if you just want to understand, the teachings of Jesus, and here's a pretty cool, hang on, let me go back, I'll show you a little local artwork. But it said, if you ever want to understand the teachings of Jesus a little bit, check this out. There you go. Little abstract art, kind of like in the Honest video. But the book of John. So if you ever want to really dig in and understand the teachings of Jesus, start with the book of John. It's this incredible book that continually talks about who Jesus is, what he did, how he did it, how he put stuff into practice, and it's awesome. All right, so this is the Gaslight District here in Manchester. And so I was reading this devotion, and it was about, there was this pool. And this was a pool that a lot of people that needed healing came to, because they believed that the waters would heal them. And they believed that if they, there was this deal where an angel would come down into the water, and if they ran down to the water, whoever got to the water first would be healed. It was just this craziness. And there was this one guy who he couldn't walk, so he basically had this mat that he would be sitting on, and he stood by the where am I gonna go here? I'm gonna stick around in this area. He stood by no, he didn't even stand. He kind of sat by the pool. And so Jesus comes up to him and says, hey man, do you want to be healed? And the guy says, yeah. So, and I'm brief, and this is a brief part of the story, and I'm kind of shortening it, but so Jesus ultimately just says, pick up your mat and walk. And so I was thinking about this as I was writing the devotions, and we were chatting through the devotions and trying to figure out, okay, what does this all mean, right? So pick up your mat and walk. And the guy, all he did was he picked up his mat and he walked. And there was a quote from Spurgeon that said, if we only had the faith that this guy had, and that faith was literally just, okay, Jesus just said it, now I'm going to do it. And not only am I going to do it, I'm going to believe it. And so thinking about and the question that Spurgeon asked was, hey, sinner, do you have that kind of faith? And faith to believe that Jesus can heal you, faith to believe that Jesus can help you walk through your situation, whether it be an addiction, whether it be a lack of a job, or just all of this stuff. Faith to believe that Jesus works in your life. And so I was thinking about that, and I was like, man, faith is something that we have to talk about a lot. And it's something that we need to really bring into practice every day. Because our faith is what defines us, right? Our faith in God, our faith in the fact that He works in our lives. We were talking about this last night at the show in Greenfield, New Hampshire. And we talk about this a lot on this podcast as well. We have to have faith so that people can see our faith, and then our faith causes us to be a reflection of Jesus in our actions and our reactions. And so this story about this guy who was probably, I forget the number of years, I think it was 38 or 40 years that this guy was struggling with this issue. And he was probably very comfortable with the issue, right? He couldn't walk. He was comfortable with people giving him donations. He was comfortable kind of with his life. He just understood this was the life and this is what he was going to do. And people would give him donations. He was able to get food and water probably and survive on a very low income. And so Jesus comes along and kind of rocks his world and says, do you want to be healed? And so that question, pose that to yourself. Do I want to be healed? Yes, I do. Do you believe that I can be healed? Yes. But do you want the change in your life, right? Looking at that, oh man, it's just, sometimes it's hard to even come to grips with this, because the change sometimes, and I'm sure I've spoken about this before, maybe even in this forum, but the change sometimes is something that's really hard and something that we actually think we want, but we don't want it because we're comfortable with the situation the way it is. I talk about this a lot. A pastor buddy of mine said, man, sometimes you have this leak in your bathroom and there's this faucet that has this little drip and you're like, oh, I gotta fix that. But 3 months, 6 months, a year goes by and it's like, the leak is the leak. It is what it is. We're just gonna deal with it. And that's something that we need to continually remind ourselves, hey, we might have a leak in our lives, but we gotta fix it. There are these little things that we've got to fix this stuff. We've got to bring Jesus into the equation and say, hey, I want the change. I need the change. And I want Jesus to bring about the change. And so this example of this dude who had been struggling with this issue for 40 years. And then Jesus says, do you want to be made healed? Do you want to be healed? And the guy welcomes the change and says, yeah, I think the change is going to be good. And so maybe the question to ask today is, do you want the change? Is the change something that you want in your life? Is the change something that you want to welcome Jesus into? And I'm not talking big changes here. I'm talking little changes. Maybe it's a change in a pattern in your life, right? A change in the way that, I don't know, maybe there's an addiction that you're struggling with, a food addiction or a social media addiction or a porn addiction. I don't know what you're struggling with, but maybe there's some kind of addiction in your life that just, you gotta let Jesus into it. And sometimes those addictions, especially those everyday addictions, not drugs, alcohol, things that are really hurting your life, but those everyday addictions of the social media or the food or your job, money. These everyday addictions become so ingrained in our everyday walk that we're just this is taking the place of Jesus in my life. And that's one of the dangers, right? We talk about this often too, where is that first or second, right? Is that thing first in your life, or is Jesus first and everything else is second? And yeah, good question to ask. Tough question to ask. So today, change. Do you want the change in your life? And do you have the faith to believe in the change? That was, I think, more of what certainly what Spurgeon was getting at, but more of what maybe Jesus was talking about too in this situation. He was like, hey, look, dude, I know you've been struggling with this issue for 40 years. Do you want to be healed? And then the response from the guy has to be, well, it's either yes or no, but he had the faith. He must have heard about Jesus in some way, shape, or form, and had the faith to just say, yeah. So then Jesus says, pick up your mat and walk. And either at that point, the guy could have been like, whatever, man, why don't you go down and sell this elsewhere? Or he says, I'm going to do it. And so that's the pivotal moment in the story where his faith becomes real and it becomes almost action, right? Okay, I've been sitting on this mat for 40 years. It's not it's not like a giant bed. It's like this little bedroll. And Jesus is like, pick up your mat and walk. And the guy says, okay, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna get up, I'm gonna walk around. And so he gets up and he walks around. And so today, Jesus is asking each and every one of us to pick up our mats and walk. Do we have the faith to trust him, to surrender to him? Yeah. Welcome to Conviction on a Saturday morning. So, do you have the faith to trust him today? Do you? Do I? I blow it every day. I blow it every day. And yet the next day, his mercies are new, and we're ready to do it again. We're ready to try again. And that's the beautiful thing about grace. Somebody told me the other day, they said, well, I've heard this for years, but I love the analogy, right? Like grace is is you make the mistake and you make the mistake and you still get the cookie, right? You still get the reward, even though you made the mistake. So today, make the mistake. It's fine. It's all good. No worries at all. But the grace of the Father is bestowed upon us every single day. Absolutely amazing. So today, faith. And let faith be combined with grace, because you will fail. I'm not gonna lie to you. You will fail, I will fail, we will fail together. But the grace of the Father brings about, just brings about everything. And so we live under this umbrella and under this incredible just blanket of grace. Just trying to find a word for it, because it's absolutely amazing. And the Father just continues to bring grace to us. So yeah, today, have some faith, but let it be combined with grace, and expect to fail and relish the winds. Let the winds continue to fill your sail as you push forward in your walk with Jesus. Amen. Amen. All right, so this is Manchester. I'm in front of the SMHU arena. I don't know what that is, but I guess it's one of their big arenas here. So that's good stuff. I'm gonna go back to the hotel, do some work, and then get in the car. I got a show tonight in Connecticut. So good stuff. Hey, if you want to join us, if you want to get involved in everything we're doing, head over to joindaysband.com and get involved in our ministry, get involved in our Bible studies, get involved in our devotions, in our worship, and get involved in helping us sponsor and save a child through child sponsorship, giving a kid food, clothing, clean water, and healthcare. Man, it's awesome stuff. Okay, we'll see you guys on the next one. Have a great rest of your day and a great week. Take care.